everyone, I'm Ari here with Rachel, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week we're on episode 285, and we're asking, how important is handwriting for novel writing? Before we start, if you enjoy the show, do consider checking out our coffee page. You can follow the page for free, as we've got plenty of goodies for all. But if you're feeling generous, a one-off donation will get access to more treats, or you can even become a Merry Writer for just $2 a month. This will then give you access to all the items in our shop, including exclusive goodies, as well as access to monthly bonuses, and all of that helps to support our podcast. If that's not your style, but you still enjoy the podcast, then please subscribe wherever you're listening if you haven't already, and consider dropping us a like. That helps too. Okay, so we're talking handwriting, and technology has been progressing pretty fast, really fast actually. So from computers to laptops to smartphones and the other things that are still coming out, we have quite a lot of ways to capture information, from typing to voice recording to talk and type, and let's not even get into it, but AI nonsense that can even write for you. I'm really sorry, it's lazy, it's sloppy, it's destructive, but we already mentioned that in another episode, so I'm not going to talk about it now because it gets me ragey, the flames on the side of my head. Can't do that. Okay, so yeah, with all this technology that's supposed to make it easier to get our thoughts down, why are we even talking about handwriting? Well, I was actually very lucky. I grew up straddling the analog age and the digital age, and I'm actually super glad about that. When I was growing up, all my exams and assignments up until about college were handwritten. And when I started to do the bit in college that had typing, it was more like you still had to do a lot of it by hand, and then you typed up certain notes or you made it into a nice presentation. That was about it. When I started working, obviously I had to use computers because that was what most office work had, and I learned to type really fast. So I have the best of both worlds. However, I've noticed that handwriting has become a lot less prevalent, and I personally think that's a bad thing.
I just want to add that Ari made a lot of notes and she did her research, so she's going to take this episode away. But I do want to add that I too grew up in the era where handwriting was, a big thing. It's so funny because you and I don't even have a large age gap between us. But it's funny that you hand wrote stuff like through college. Whereas I think for me, I still had to handwrite essays in middle school, but that was around the time that, computers were getting, like I had a computer class in middle school. I think depending on the teacher, some of them wanted our essays typed and others wanted our essays handwritten. Actually, there was a computer lab at my elementary school too. Now that I think about it, I don't know. I can't really remember like when that shift happened. I think when I got to high school, the majority of my assignments had to be typed and printed. It's not like we didn't email our assignments to our teachers. We still had to type it at home and then print it out. We all had printers at home. I don't think many people have printers anymore, but there's something so satisfying about handwriting. And I remember when I was a kid, I had notebooks upon notebooks upon notebooks that was just scribbles of fan fiction for Ninja Turtles and Sonic the Hedgehog and X-Men and all of that. And I think I still have some of them. I must still have some of them. But those days were the best. I really have nothing concrete to add to this, but those days were the best when you had to handwrite everything. And then you turn the page and the page would be all crinkly because of the ink.
Oh my gosh,
I
totally agree. Yeah, I used to write on the A4 pads. It was always the really thin paper, and I was one of those, write on both sides, and then you could barely read it because it kind of bled through. It was not great. And I have to admit, I hate crinkly paper, so now I like thicker notepads so you don't get as crinkly and you don't have it like printed through as much. But yeah, and also we grew up without phones. So if you had ideas, you needed pad and pen. There was no other way of doing it, otherwise you had to use your memory, and even back then it wasn't great. But yeah, so we both lived in a point where there was a lot more handwriting. So, and this isn't just, I did say my opinion is that not handwriting much is bad, but it's not just my opinion. There have been studies. So let's talk about some studies. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology back in 2024 revealed that researchers in Norway measured the electrical activity in the brains of university students. So what it was they were asked to write words either using a digital pen, so still digital, but it's holding a pen and writing on a touchscreen, or typing using a single finger. And the study found connectivity patterns were more widespread for those who used a pen to write than those who typed. And this is not the only study that's been done in regards to the difference between handwriting and typing. There's actually a growing body of research that finds handwriting leads to more spatial and temporal patterns. It's kind of believed that typing, especially when taking notes, that there's less thinking involved than there is with handwriting. And that's not really surprising if you think about, when you're moving the pen, when you're thinking about what you're writing, whereas typing is, especially if you're a fast typer and things are coming really quickly, it is different. And in fact, the NTNU, I can't remember what that stands for, I will make a note. The NTNU researchers used 256 sensors to record brain activity on 32 students. The students were then asked to write or type 15 words chosen from the Pictionary game. Love that game. So much fun. If you haven't played Pictionary, go and play Pictionary. Where am I? Yeah. The sensors on those who wrote by hand picked up a widespread connectivity across many regions of the brain, whereas those who typed actually showed minimal activity in the same regions. That's not good. Also, back in 2012, a study conducted by Washington University of St. Louis found that those who handwrote information were actually able to retain and recall more of it after a 24-hour period than those who typed it, because the brain creates and builds neural pathways, which can then be strengthened, and these obviously can also be weakened if you're not using them, and new ones can be built. If you want to know more about that, you need to read up on brain or neuroplasticity. It's actually a really fun read. I actually really enjoyed doing deep diving into brain science, but that could just be me being a bit of a weirdo. But it is actually quite fun to read up on.
Those studies are really interesting. And it makes a lot of sense that you're using more brain activity when you're handwriting versus typing, because when you're typing, you're really just going through the motions and you're just clicking buttons. There's really it. I mean, yes, you are thinking about what you're writing, but you're thinking ahead to what you're going to write next because it's such a fast-paced skill, task, whatever. When you're handwriting, obviously it's a slower process, but you have to think about what you're saying. You have to think about how to form each letter, how to form each word. And it sounds really stupid, actually. And hopefully I'm making sense. Obviously, when you type, you need to think about how to form certain words. You need to know how to spell, essentially, but you're not remembering how to write each letter. And I feel like that in and of itself can make a huge difference on what your brain is doing and what your brain is trying to accomplish and what it's telling your body to do, your mind, your hands, your memory, whatever. And obviously I can't explain it because I'm not a neuroscientist, but I think it's those little subtleties. And like I said, it sounds kind of stupid, but those little subtleties are very important for your brain health.
Well, that's it, exactly. And if you think about it, if you're a fast typer, and a lot of people who type these days are quite fast. They're faster at typing than writing. So if you're typing, you can just get all the information down as quick as possible, and you're not really thinking about it. But if you're writing, you're having to slow your brain down to keep up with your hand, unless you're like really fast writer, which I've done that. You can't read it. It's not great. So you're having to be more mindful about what you're writing. And if you're taking notes, so like say you're in a classroom in a university and you're taking notes by pen and pen, you have to be more thoughtful because the professor's going through all the information and you can't write it all down. It's not like dictation. So you need to be thoughtful about what information you jot down. It's like if you did minutes in a meeting, you don't write every single word that everyone said when you do minutes. It's the same thing. You have to be more thoughtful and mindful about what you're putting down on page. Whereas if you're typing, if you're fast enough, you can type exactly what's being said. Doesn't mean you've got all the information because you then have to, it doesn't always go in as well, but it's little things like that. So it's not difficult to realize that handwriting does force you to slow down. It does force you to take time and choose your words more carefully. It also allows for greater focus, concentration, and critical thinking. And let's be honest, we're lacking that. Since the internet came out, since social media came out, concentration and focus are like minimal. It is frightening, actually, especially if you've had really good concentration. Seeing it now, where it's going, I am shocked at how little concentration I have, how much I will stop in the middle of a movie I've not seen that I'm enjoying to check my phone because it's a freaking addiction. How I can be reading something and then realize I haven't actually read anything and I have to go back to the beginning. And this isn't, I've been reading a novel and I'm getting tired. This is my brain just faffs off and I have to drag it back and concentrate. I didn't realize how bad it was until a few years ago when I was struggling with so much of the concentration. I was missing information, important information. And it was like, wow, where is it all gone? I was never that bad. And I do believe that, again, I think there's a study out about how bad social media is, which, let's be honest, you don't even need a study. You can just see it. You can see how bad it is for our concentration. We're like, oh, if a video is longer than 3 minutes, it's like, how many people just skip it?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that I think that with the rapid increase of technology, whether it's the internet or social media or just phones, tablets, whatever, it's evolving so fast that our brains cannot keep up with it, that we just like Ari said with videos, if you're doom scrolling on Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts, whatever, how many times have you actually sat and watched a video that's 1 minute long from start to finish? Because 9 times out of 10, you will realize that you get maybe halfway through it, and then you just swipe up and you keep scrolling because you've already checked out. You're not retaining any of the information. It doesn't matter if it's funny. It doesn't matter if it's a topic you're interested in or if you care about it. You just find yourself, you get stuck in that motion of just flicking your wrist and scrolling up and up and up, and you're not retaining anything. You're not thinking about anything. And it's just this weird, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just this weird like stasis that you put yourself in. And you don't even realize it until you check the time. You happen to peel your gaze away from the screen. You look at the time and you're like, oh, I've been scrolling for 2 hours now. And it's nighttime. Like, I mean, it's just, it's not good. It's not good.
I think that was perfect. Stasis. It is, because you do it become time blind. You don't know how long you've been on. And I guarantee if someone said, oh, you've been there for 2 hours, what are some videos you've seen? Most of the time, unless it was something immediate, you won't even remember what you've looked at. Because they all blur together anyway. It's all the same crap that keeps rolling through anyway. So you've literally spent 2 hours scrolling and you can barely remember what you've seen. Nothing stuck. It's actually really sad. I do worry for the generations coming up who didn't have the break of analog before being not even submersed in it. It's like drowned in digital.
Yes. Yeah. And it's all monkey see, monkey do as well. I mean, I'm not like, this isn't me parent shaming or anything like that, but I go to restaurants and I see like little kids sitting at the table and they have their own tablets out, or they're on their parents' phone, or they're teenagers and they're sitting with their family, and even the parents are on their phones too. It's like there's no disconnect anymore. And if the kids and then the kids get blamed most of the times for being on their phone too much, but the parents are also on their phones too much, and it's just they're just mimicking what they see, and it's this constant vicious cycle. And we really need to pull ourselves out of it, because Ari said it's sad, but it is sad, but it's also quite scary.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It is. And it's kind of nice that there are pockets of people who are doing something. There was a school in England, I believe, down south. I will find it and put a link to the article where I think they banned like phones. And I don't even know if they banned computers. I think it was mainly phones, because obviously everyone's got a phone. They did, like, I think it was they might have put it on TV, maybe on BBC, where it was like it was showing what people were like. And at first, obviously, kids were getting really ratty about it and like uncomfortable, because it is, if you're addicted, because I don't care what anyone says, the phone is designed to be addictive. Technology is designed to be addictive. Originally, when it came out and everyone was just enjoying the internet, it was different. There's a reason we have algorithms. There's a reason we have ads. There's a reason things have changed. It's all designed not to give you information, to keep you on there. So you're spending money, spending time, they're mining your data. And I know I sound like a, conspiracy theorist nutter, but honestly, this is what they do. And they admit it. It's not secret. They're designed to keep you on there. So the moment you try and get off, it's like a drug, and you feel that weirdness of, I better just reach for it. I better just reach for it. And they did it with these kids, and they managed to get them off it. And in the school, and they found that they were being more active, being more, focusing better in classes, connecting better, having actual like connectivity and community with their friends and their peers. And it made a difference. And you see it with adults too. Some adults actually, put their phone away and try and have connected moments, whether it's, board game nights or hiking without your phone. It makes a difference. And I will try and link all these little things down below because it's, I don't know, it's one of those things I get really passionate about because I don't want to see where we're going. All this stuff it blasts you with dopamine hit, and then you get depleted and you feel like crap. And then you throw on comparing yourself to everybody else, comparing how everyone else's feed looks, how everyone's life looks, their house, their partner, their pets. And suddenly everything's like, oh, it's worse. And I completely realize I am totally off topic, so I'm going to force it back. But yeah, it's a thing we care about a lot. And we care about people and how it's going to affect them. And we don't even have kids, and we're bothered.
See, it's really interesting to see the incline of technology over the years because the first family I worked for, their biggest hurdle was keeping the kids off of the video games, whether it was a console or PC or whatever. And then there was one family I worked for, and their biggest concern was that their oldest daughter was on Musical.ly. Shout outs to anybody who remembers what Musical.ly was. Now the kids that I nanny for, like, they had tablets and now they have phones. And of course they're, preteens, teenagers at this point. So obviously they're going to be a little more absorbed in their phones, but it just gets to a point where one day you're having a solid conversation with them, and then the next day they get a phone and that's all they do. And they are just absorbed in it. And it's like, it's just not, it's not good. And I know we definitely are getting off topic, but it is kind of crazy how technology has evolved over the years. Because I'm pretty sure if we did some research into certain authors, I bet you they probably did handwrite all of their novels. I mean, obviously, because computers didn't always exist. So, I mean, there are authors out there who probably hand wrote all of their drafts before typing it up on a typewriter or whatever and going with it. So it's possible. It absolutely is possible. But everybody is in a rush these days that they would prefer to type. And well, everything's digital, so you kind of have to type anyway. But, the first draft, second draft, like, you can easily handwrite that. And I know it'll take longer, but I think it would be worth it in the end. And I think slowing yourself down when writing your novel will help you retain your own information as well, so that it'll be easier to create that style sheet, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, and just remember certain notes about characters and plot and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Because we aren't remembering things. And yeah, we massively went off topic. Well, we didn't. No, it was a segue. There was a tangent attached, so we're fine.
It borderlined the ranty writer, but that's okay. It wouldn't be the merry writer if we didn't get ranty once in a while.
Exactly. It makes us happy that we get to do that. So it makes us merry that we get to rant about stuff. But obviously, this does not mean that we're going to go, you should go out and handwrite your novels longhand. No, obviously, if that's not something you want to do, then don't do it. If you want to do it, do it. I mean, we've known several writers, actually, who drew their first draft in longhand. So it can be done. When I was working, sometimes on my lunch break and sometimes off my lunch break, if I got an idea, I would very quickly handwrite the scene out on the notepad. Couldn't use the computer, so I'd handwrite it out on that. So even if you don't write the whole thing, write in the scenes, but you don't have to do everything digitally. Definitely switch it up. Outline by hand. Do your brainstorming by hand. Write maybe some of your world book by hand. Character profiles. When I start a new manuscript, I try and get a new A5 notebook, and I attempt to put all my notes and ideas and little bits of dialogue and everything in the pad. I am a bit scatterbrained, so often it'll end up on a post-it or a scrap of paper, and then I have to go around the house collecting them and shove them in the notebook. They're still handwritten, they're just not in that central area that's useful, the whole point of a notebook. But yeah, instead of just going straight for the phone, straight for the computer to write your notes, do it by hand. And honestly, now that AI is everywhere, I mean, like, I just did a phone update and the phone's like, oh my gosh, here's all the AI. And it's like, I don't want AI. And it keeps going, would you like me to summarize your notes? And it's like, my notes are where I was writing some of the ideas if I was out of the house. Well, that means I'm definitely not going to do it because I don't want anything looking at my notes. So I'm going to have to go back to Notepad in my handbag because I just don't want to keep using my phone. And I don't know. And also, you get to use all those cool pens. We're writers. Who doesn't have a collection of cool colored pens or funky design pens? Get them used. Where am I going with this? Oh, I am going to throw in a caveat that I probably should have put at the beginning, but I forgot. When we're saying this, we are talking about people who are able to write by hand. We are obviously aware there are accessibility issues that can stop someone being able to handwrite. We are aware that not everyone has the ability to do handwriting. But if you are, I do recommend you actually trying to do more of it, especially in regards to your novel and also your day-to-day life, whether it's your shopping list, whether it's your diary. I mean, I think most people actually do handwrite diaries and planners, but not everyone does. Some people do it all on digital. Just consider what you can handwrite, and maybe this could even be another writing challenge. We've been doing some challenges recently, so we could do like a week or two of handwriting.
I mean, that won't be for a while because Ari keeps coming up with these writing challenges. So we have like a huge backlog of challenges that we gotta do. But I do think that would be a very good idea. And I like what you said, that some people handwrite, some people also like do digital or whatever. You can always have both. Because again, if you want to type your novel, but have a separate notebook with those notes. Even with journaling, I use a journal app, and I also have like an actual notebook that I journal in, and I use them for two different things. It's still journaling, but I have like, because I'm neurotic and I have to have different categories when journaling. But you can always do both. It's not like you have to do, if you decide to handwrite your novel, it's not like you have to do the entire thing handwritten. You can pick and choose what you want to handwrite and what you want to type up. And I also want to add that if you do handwrite your novel, even if it's just a couple of scenes or a few chapters, or even if it's the entire manuscript, I find that handwriting it first just adds an extra layer of editing, because then when you have to type it up, you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. You've got that you're reading through it because you're retyping it. And as you're doing so, you're probably editing it and fixing spelling mistakes and also realizing plot holes and character development flaws and things like that. So it's useful for that novel progression, not just good for your brain. Although the brain part is probably the most important, but just throwing that out there.
Well, speaking of brain, if you're still unsure about this, consider that the right-hand side of the brain is the creative side. And when you handwrite or draw, it activates that side a lot more. And we'll end it on a quote from a paper published in the National Library of Medicine. Handwriting activates a broader network of brain regions involved in motor, sensory, and cognitive processing. Typing engages fewer neural circuits, resulting in more passive cognitive engagement. Despite the advantages of typing in terms of speed and convenience, handwriting remains an important tool for learning and memory retention, especially in educational contexts. So yeah, if you want to have better concentration and focus and critical thinking and memory retention, you should try and do more handwriting. Just a thought. As always, any links we have to studies we will try and put in the bottom in the description, so do have a look at those if you want. Okay, let's end this. It's been going on for ages. Before we leave, if you want to learn more about us, the podcast, opportunities to be a guest on the show, don't forget to check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com. Let's turn it over to you guys. Do you handwrite any of your creative work? Whether that's writing the novel, the notes, brainstorming, hell, even drawing your characters. Let us know. We want to know. Chat about it in the comments. Remember, we do release new episodes every Wednesday. Next week, we are discussing how to make your characters relatable. To ensure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button on your way out. And as always, thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. See you next week. This podcast is brought to you by Thought-Provoking Questions. We overthink things. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.